Live and we are live. So, hi everyone, welcome back to Mail Modo Live. And today we have Pierre with us from MailSword. Hi Pierre, how are you?
Hi, Sabat. Yeah, I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good too. And thank you so much for doing this with us. And we're really
Thank you for
excited.
having me.
Deliverability is one of our most favorite topic at MailModo, and we are sure it's your favorite at MailSword also. But before you begin with your presentation and we ask the question, just wanted to know a little bit about how you got into email marketing and what about deliverability you found so interesting.
I got into deliverability really by accident. I think, like most people in this industry, I worked for a company sending large amount of emails, and deliverability was a bit of an obscure thing. So I kind of learned it on the go. And when I left this company in the US, I figured that the knowledge I had regarding deliverability could be helpful to other companies. So I started as a freelancer and then I built MailStore, and we're now 5 years old, I think, since today. And we get about 25 people working on the team. So yeah, great adventure. What do I find interesting with deliverability? I don't know. I find people interesting in general. So I like to talk to them. And overall, investigating problems and figuring out solutions is kind of fun. So yeah, I would say that's what I enjoy with it.
That's amazing to know, and we're so happy that you're here with us. And our audience is excited to learn more about you and get to know your secrets, how you help your clients, and maybe implement some of them in their work also. So, if we are ready, we can start with the presentation. Shall we?
Yes, please.
Sure. Then I'll start with the presentation, and you can tell me. Right.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. So the presentation today is obviously about deliverability. We're going to cover some of the basics, some of the misconception, and we'll look at how does recovering deliverability look like from a client standpoint. We have some charts that we pulled out of a real case to show you both recovery, then what does widening the segmentation look like, and then re-engagement. So it kind of like speaks a little bit more than just generic terms, right? So yeah, you can go ahead and move on to the next slide, Sabah. So what are your goals? I'm guessing if you're in this webinar, either you just want to kind of learn some of the best practices, or maybe you actually are running into a deliverability issue at the moment. So these are the goals that you should be having, right? First of all, you want to make sure that your infrastructure meets basic compliance requirements. So we're going to go over what is basic compliance, but we talk about authentication, sending behavior, bounces, all of these things that if you don't really have them, you're going to run into issues. Then point number two is really segmentation. And it's an entire chapter of this presentation because segmentation is really at the heart of it. Like you must have good segmentation. Even if you have the right basic, without segmentation, you're going to run into issue, right? And then point number three is obviously once you're back in main inbox, once you have good segmentation, you're a compliant sender, how can you re-engage your contact in the most efficient possible way? And then we'll go over some of the, ROI and click-through open rate tactics that we've seen on clients. So this is kind of the overall. You can change if you want, Saba, to the next goal. So yeah, we discussed that a little bit already, but three goals. Oh, you can go back to the previous one, Saba. Yeah, so three goals. First of all, you want to improve deliverability, right? Like that's kind of the point of the presentation today. The second goal, once you have good deliverability, is to get the widest possible segments and some kind of stability. So you know what audience you can reach to, and you don't have to change every day or every week, right? So phase two is like, I'm back in main inbox. Now I want to make the best out of my email list. And then phase three is the re-engagement. And it's super important because if you run into the deliverability issue, a good portion of your audience never sees your email. So they become disengaged. And so you lose the possibility of making interaction happen with this contact. So again, once you're back in main inbox, once you have good usual segmentation, then re-engagements and using that deliverability to your advantage is really, really important. You can move on to the next slide. So yeah, these are the basics. So we're going to talk about bounces, authentication, list hygiene, content red flag. I hear everything about content, so I kind of want to straighten things up a little bit. And then reputation. We hear reputation with every kind of possible mechanism, so I want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing. You can move on to the next slide. So authentication, right? When I try to explain authentication to my clients, I usually take the example of somebody traveling abroad, right? So for example, you, Sabat, right? You are coming to France. You're more than welcome, and this is a great decision. So you should come to France for some vacation. But when you come to France, you need to have your passport and you need to have some form of visa, maybe an online visa or maybe some kind of paperwork that essentially says, okay, who are you? And what is the purpose of you coming in France, right? Same with emails, right? SPF and DKIM are going to be your passport and your visa. They are records which are going to help the receiving spam filter to understand, okay, who are you? What is your sending history? Should I let you in my main inbox or not? So SPF and DKIM are really, really deliverability related, right? DMARC is a security record. DMARC is essentially the book of best practice of the French immigration officer on what to do with people that are coming from a country and they come from their country, but they're missing a passport or a visa. Like, what do you do with it? Do you let them in the country? Do you put them in quarantine for further analysis? Do you just reject them and send them back to the country where they're from? So DMARC is a record which has 3 levels: P equal none, P equal quarantine, P equal reject. It's the same. You're just telling receiving server what to do with emails that are coming from your domain that are not correctly authenticated, right? And the secured state is P equal reject, where you're telling spam filter, look, I'm so confident that all of my legitimate emails are correctly authenticated that if you get an email from my domain and it's not authenticated perfectly, reject this email because chances are it will be spam or fraud. At least it will not be coming from me, right? So that's SPF, DKIM, and DMARC in a nutshell. Beamy is a new record, which you may have seen on some brands. Maybe you can switch to the next slide. I think the next slide contains an example of the, see, so the Beamy, for example, at MailSource, we have a Beamy. And if you get an email from us, you have this logo, the logo of the company, and you have this blue little check mark on the side of our names that kind of provides a little bit more authenticity and a little bit more reliability on email. So you see, BMI is a whole process. It requires your logo to be trademarked. You need to purchase some kind of like legal paperwork called VMC, Verified Mark Certificate. You need good domain reputation. You need a really, really strict DMARC policy. So it's kind of a next level authentication. As I said, it doesn't relate to deliverability. You can go to main inbox without BMI. It's more of a security / branding marketing elements. Okay. And maybe we'll have question on BMI after the presentation, which we can address. You can go to the next slide. So the bounces, I think everyone on this call has probably seen bounces, so I'm not going to go too long over it. 2 types of bounces: hard bounce, which are usually mailboxes that cannot accept mail, so like unavailable mailbox, unexisting mailbox, and then soft bounces, which is pretty much kind of like a category with everything else, from over quota mailbox to reputation blocks to delivery errors during the SMTP transaction. So bounces, usually what you want to see is low level of bounces below 0.5%. And you need to also know that each bounce usually carry a code and some explanation about what they are. So pay attention, right? If you have high bounce rate, review your bounces, understand which one are the most frequent one you're encountering, what are they saying, and then try to understand why you're generating these bounces, okay? You can move on to the next slide. Okay, list hygiene. Again, this is pretty straightforward. But first of all, get opt-ins, right? Cold email is never a good idea. You're always going to damage your deliverability. Cold emails inherently generates high negative engagement. Like when you send to 100 people who have not asked to receive an email from you, you get a lot of people placing your email in spam, putting your email in trash, not doing much with your emails, which lead the spam filter to quickly realize that you're not a wanted element in the main inbox, so you'll go to spam very quickly. So no cold email, get opt-ins, obviously remove any invalid contact, but your email service provider, if you're on mail model, you guys do it, I know, so this should be automatically done. Honor and subscribe, same in 99% of the case, the email service provider handles that for you. And then adapt your segmentation. Like, just remember for a second, you're dealing with actual humans. Like, do you really want to get that email? Like, did I sign up for it? Okay, so make sure that you match what you're sending with your subscriber expectation. As long as you do that, you're going to get amazing results. You can move on to the next slide, Sabah. Cool. Content red flag. I like this slide. I like this slide a lot because I hear so many things like, oh, this is spam words, or oh, I shouldn't put emojis, or all that thing. Look, you want to do a fun test? Take all of the spam words that you find online, put them in an email, and send this email to someone which has some history with you, right? They will get that email in main inbox because spam words are just not a thing. It does not exist. It's something from the past, from back in the 2000s, when spam filters were heavily content-based. Now they're a lot more kind of like behavioral based. They look at the behavior of their users to determine if an email is wanted or not. So, spam words are not a thing. That's pretty simple. So, however, there's still some content elements that could be impactful. So if you put HTTP links, it can be problematic, right? You're missing an security certificates. Emails over 102 kilobits can be problematic, not necessarily for deliverability, but just because they may get cropped at Gmail. And if your email is cropped, then people have to click to display the bottom of your email. It's not convenient. So this can be problematic. Large images, try to use tiny PNG or tools like this to reduce the size. Always avoid Bitly and all of the URL shorteners. They can be used to redirect to malicious websites. So spam filters don't like to see that in your emails. Brand your links. So branding your links sometimes takes the name of custom link tracking. It is the ability to remove generic tracking domain from click and open URLs and put your own URL instead. So for example, HubSpot, we'll use HubSpot Mail to track click and open. It's a domain that's used by thousands of other senders. It doesn't have very good deliverability. So if you remove that tracking domain and you put your own domain, you get a whole lot better deliverability just because of that. And then last but not least, because sometimes people still struggle on this, have an unsubscribe link. Unless your email is a password request, I should be able to opt out from any communication that I don't want. Okay, so have an unsubscribe link. You can move on to the next slide. So reputation, it's a little bit cropped, but the reputation. So you have three types of reputation. You have IP and domain reputation. I think anybody who's ever used Google Postmaster is familiar with that. Look, it's very simple to understand what a reputation is. It's like when you're a kid at school, okay? Every kid has a reputation for doing something based on the history. So your reputation is just the appreciation of your traffic coming from a given destination based on your history. Two things you can set up very easily, at least one. Google Postmaster, it works on @gmail.com destination, free, very easy to set up. Really, anybody that sends emails should have Google Postmaster. And then Microsoft SNDS can also be set up if you have a dedicated IP. It's a little bit of an outdated, but it's still helpful. So if you're on dedicated IP, you're running into issue with Microsoft destination, setting up SNDS could be a good idea. And the last but not least, they're both a symptom and a cause. And it's so important when we talk about deliverability to understand the difference between a symptom and a cause. Going to spam is a symptom, right? There's a cause because of your for going to spam. However, reputation problem, they're usually both a cause and a symptoms. If your reputation decreases, like reputation doesn't decrease by itself. It's not like a fluctuating value. It's like something made your reputation go down. So a drop in reputation is a symptom of a lack of compliance on your end. However, when the reputation starts decreasing, your emails also go to spam, right? So it's both a symptom which turns into a cause of your emails going to spam in the future. So very, very important thing to remember here. You can choose, you can switch to the next one. So I think mail model provides kind of like a built-in interface where you can aggregate the results from Postmaster and from other various reputation data points. So very, very user-friendly, what you guys have done over there. I really like it a lot. It's good that you can see the reputation of your subdomain, main domain, all over in the same place. So very, very cool interface from Mailmodo here. You can continue on the next slide. Okay, so now we move on to segmentation, and this is when we're gonna get into some actual real life example of why it's so important. Okay, so 3 goals: recover deliverability. This should be your number 1 goal. There's no marketing if there's no deliverability, so prioritize deliverability over anything else. First goal, we want to recover. The second goal is we want to try to work on this unengaged contacts. Like, what do we do with them? How do we send them an email to see if they want to stay on the list or not? Right? How do we do that? And then last but not least is really send more better, meaning how do I get the widest possible segmentation? How do I reach the maximum amount of people without going into spam? So you can move on to the next slide. Okay, cool. So this is a little bit of a complex slide, but I'm going to explain it very, very easily. So the blue line represents open rates. As you can tell, the bottom, bad, low, medium, high, represents your Google Postmaster reputation. So the domain reputation, let's simplify it. And then at the top, the 30 days, 60 days, 90 days is your segmentation policy. Who are you going to send to? So Saba, we put ourselves at the place where we are at the beginning of this chart. You can see that your open rates are hovering between 8 to 10%, right? It's not really good. You're probably going to spam heavily. You set up Google Postmaster and you figure out, oh, my domain reputation is bad. It's at the lowest place. Oh, something is happening. Cool. Call us. We tell you, look, you gotta segment your list more aggressively. First goal, you want to recover. Why? Because the way to recover is to make your email as relevant as possible. And what is a relevance metric that you can easily control? It's open rates, right? Overall engagement. So what we're going to say is look, Saba, we're going to target your 30 days openers because we want really high open rate and we want to show the spam filter how relevant our message is. And so we target the 30 days openers. What happens? Immediately, your open rate, mathematically, they go up, right? Maybe you had 100,000 people every day, and now we're emailing only 10,000 people which have opened your emails. So very high open rate. As you can see, it goes from 10% to like 26 or 27%, right? And then what we're looking for is this nice increase in open rates. What does it mean, this increase? It means that at every time you're sending emails with the same segmentation, more people are opening your email, which means the spam filter starts appreciating your emails and placing it more in main inbox. You wanna think about it as a spiral, which can either be negative spiral, like downward, where lower open rates leads to more of your emails being placed in spam, which leads to lower open rate, which leads to more of your emails going in spam. And then you spiral down to like 1% open rate. On the other side, you want to be in this upward position where you're like, okay, higher open rates means more of my emails going in main inbox, which means higher open rates on the next end, which means more of my emails going in main inbox, right? This kind of philosophy is very, very important. So we target our 30 days. And what do we see? Congratulations, your domain reputation goes from bad to low. You have improved your domain reputation just by targeting recent openers. So we do this, and then we're like, well, we cannot live our whole life with 30 days openers. Obviously, we need to widen the segmentation, and also it will give us the occasion to reach people so we can tell the spam filter, hey, look, even people that we haven't mailed recently, they actually like our emails. So we move on to the 60-day openers now. What happens? Mathematically, you expand the size of your segments. So open rates go down, but you control how much down your open rate goes. And so again, we meet like a 25, 28% threshold, and then we maintain the segmentation long enough that we see the domain reputation improve from low to medium. So we are doing something good here, right? And then it's a little bit of a rinse and repeat process, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. As you can see in this example, and obviously the data was simplified, right, for the point of this presentation. But this is a real, the timeline in terms of days is absolutely accurate. Like it took about 2 months to this client to go from bad reputation to high reputation. So 2 months of efforts, and he was back in a really nice place. So yeah, this is a bit of a rinse and repeat process. Before moving on to the next slide, I just want to address a concern that I know we're going to get. It's like, oh yeah, but open rates are not accurate. Like there's Apple Mail privacy protection and there's all of this fake opens. Yeah, okay, open rates are not accurate. I will give that to you. But the trends are heavily meaningful. Like if you go from 50% open rates to 15% from one day to the other, probably you have a deliverability issue, right? So not accurate, but the trends are meaningful. And that's really what we're looking at on this chart. We're looking at trends of open rates. You can go to the next slide. So yeah, I think we talked about that. We usually recommend maintaining 35 to 45% unique open rates. This is a nice place to make sure you stay on the upward spiral, not the downward spiral. You need to find the sunsetting point, which we're going to address in the next chart. But the sunsetting point is essentially where even with good deliverability, your audience become too unengaged. And so if you keep on mailing to them, you're going to have lower than this 35, 45% unique open rate target that we have. So you risk getting on the downward spiral. And so this would be problematic. And so, yeah, option finding this point. Once you have found the point where you cannot mail people as frequently as you did in the past, where either you can stop mailing them and you can send them a last email like, hey, it's not you, it's us, or whatever fun last email, or you just reduce the frequency. If you're like a daily mailer, maybe you do 1 mail per week, or 1 mail per month, right? You reduce the frequency so your traffic overall stays above 35 to 45% unique open rates. You can go to the next slide, Saba. So in this case, we are looking at finding with this client the sunsetting point. So you remember on the previous chart, we are at about 90 days open when we move on to this chart. So now we're getting into 180 days open, 120 days opener. So you can see 120 days. If we have to draw like an average at 120 days, that would be maybe like 45%. So we're on the upper end of what we want to have. So that's good. However, clients is like, look, I want to try to reach out to a little bit more people. Cool. Let's go with the 180 days. Your 180 days, you can see they're right on this kind of 35% unique open rate, which is where we want to be. We don't want to be lower. This is a good one. So this client has high domain reputation, everything going to main inbox. And if he mails people which haven't opened an email for more than 180 days, his open rates will be too low to be sustainable. So in this case, the sunsetting point of this client is 180 days, right? After this mark, we need to either decrease frequency or stop mailing clients that are, subscribers, which are not engaging anymore. You can move on to the next slide. Okay, so now we are on the point number 3, which is our last kind of goal. Right now, we have good deliverability. We have a wide audience. We mail to the 180 days openers. We have stable practices. So now you're going to tell me, hey, Pierre, all is good, but we've been going to spam for 1 year. We have a lot of people that may not have ever seen our emails because of the spam placement. I want to re-engage them. I said, okay, let's do it, right? But if you send to your entire inactive population at once, what's going to happen? You're going to get very low open rates, high bounce rate, because probably some of them are outdated. You're going to tank your deliverability because of that campaign. So rather than doing re-engagement as a one-time campaign, what we typically do is we try to do a blend of active contacts and re-engagement contacts at the same time. So that if you make kind of the blend of both of these segments, your open rates are still above 35 to 45%. That's really what we want to avoid, going below that. So we need to re-engage these contacts slowly. And what we want to find, we're in the hypothesis here. This is a daily sender client. And let's say he sent 10,000 emails every day to his active population. Our goal is to know how many unengaged contacts can we mail to on a daily basis without decreasing our deliverability. So what we do is we start at 500 and we increase until your open rate meets 35%. And at this point, we know that we cannot go higher. So you can see on the chart, the blue line is the 10,000. The red line is the amount of re-engagement email that we're sending. So now you can go to the next one and remember this slide. So the blue line at the top again is your regular campaigns, your active portion. So you have 40% open rate on your active portion. Really amazing, right? The yellow line at the bottom is the re-engagement performance. So out of 100 people that you try to re-engage, you get 8% open rate. So 8 out of 100, which is typical from a re-engagement campaign, really. Like if you keep on increasing the amount of re-engagement versus real emails, what is the daily compound rate going to do? It's going to decrease, okay? And what we want is we want to make sure that it does not decrease more than 35%. So again, if you put your cursor on 35% and you revert back to the previous slide, you will see that it meets about 2,000 emails, right? It's about 2,000, a little bit less than 2,000, a little bit more than 2,000. So in this example, we have proven mathematically that we can re-engage about 2,000 people per day as long as we send to 10,000 active contacts, right? The logic is really what you listeners and viewers need to take away. You can go, Saba, on maybe the other slide as well. So we work on the re-engagement. Yeah, you can. Okay, so we just kind of make a little bit of a summary of all of these very valuable information. So why should you segment? The goal of segmentation is to allow sending as many people to as many people as possible while keeping good open rate. So the goal of it is just be the most efficient at your marketing. That's it. That's the only goal we have, right? Use metrics such as click to email sent or open to email sent to evaluate your segments or overall program effectiveness. I meet a lot of people which are sometimes multiple sources of contact. So maybe some of them are like websites, Facebook ads, partners, and stuff like that. One of the metrics that I like to set up to evaluate the quality of the source is really the amount of email opened versus email sent, right? And you can have an idea of the quality of your intake funnel based on these metrics. Consider the option of using different frequency per engagement. As I said, after you go to the sunsetting point, either you stop mailing them, but maybe you can just decrease the frequency. And instead of mailing every day your 180-day subscriber, you can mail every 2 weeks your 270-day subscriber, right? And then in the meantime, keep on using your 180 days. So decreasing the frequency is also an option before stopping to email. And then also send content based on your behavioral data, right? We have now a lot of CRM, customer data platform and data points, well, like Mailmodo, by the way, which is very integrated with your website, with your app, and which can bring also other data than what you have on your email. So it can be very, very valuable to create segments based on that. You can have the next slide. So this is the segmentation. It's a little bit blurry, but the idea is here. And so what you guys are doing at Malmo that I really like is the presets in terms of segmentation. So you can easily segment your active contact, your inactive contact, and then you can also create obviously your own custom segments. So this is a really cool feature, and not all email service provider, which is crazy in 2025. Not all email service provider have this kind of option. So I like that with your tool. Yeah, you can move on. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of this presentation. I'm going to cover a little bit like the news, what have been happening in the last 2 years, and then some conclusion, right? So what happened in 2024? Everyone probably have heard about the Yahoo and Google updates, right? We call it the Yahoo Go update to make it a little bit more fancy. But essentially, three things that you need to remember. First of all, you need authentication. You need SPF and DKIM to be able to get into the main inbox. It's basically something that they branded as no auth, no entry. If you're not an authenticated sender, you will not get to main inbox. It really, really does apply right now. DMARC is required for what they call bulk sender, which is over 5,000 emails per day. It's an approximate 5,000, not an exact one. Then the second point is really the spam rates. Maximum threshold is 0.3%. So 3 people out of 1,000 reporting your email as spam. A comfortable threshold is more one person out of 1,000, so 0.1%. So yes, they're very strict. However, it's been the policy like this forever. So it's not a new thing, but they are a little bit stricter. So if your spam rate, if you draw your average spam rate on Google Postmaster and it's above 0.3%, chances you are running into deliverability issues. And last but not least is the one-click unsubscribe. Many people confuse the one-click unsubscribe with the unsubscribe link. It's two different things, right? The unsubscribe link is in your email. It's working. There's no problem. The one-click unsubscribe is something in your technical header. And I've taken this screenshot on my Google Workspace mailbox. Probably have seen that. You have this blue little thing that says unsubscribe, right? That is the one-click unsubscribe. Again, this is a requirement for bulk sender above 5,000. If you are just sending a couple hundred emails like billing or whatever, you don't have to have a one-click unsubscribe on it. Okay, you can move on to the next one. And so what is happening in 2025? Just give me 1 second. Thank you. So what is happening in 2025? Stricter authentication and spam rate. You have the changes in Google Postmaster. Now you have Google Postmaster v2, where you can see a little bit more granularity and a little bit more accurate data. So what I'm expecting and what's already happening is that all the email filtering ecosystem is moving on towards stricter spam thresholds. They're less tolerant with that. You also get more dynamic inbox placement and engagement-based filtering. So Google is probably the pioneer in terms of making decision about your deliverability based on the behavior of the subscribers that use gmail.com. However, we see that most email providers are now trying to move towards that, especially with the big data, the cost of data that's getting lower, the AI progress that is also happening. So yes, a lot more dynamic inbox placement that we're seeing on various providers. And then the last but not least is more first-party data and zero-party data. So open rates are very inaccurate. Click rates are also fairly inaccurate. So we see a lot of senders moving toward, when they do segments, they will blend email metric and app metric or purchase metrics, for example. So they have more accurate segment. So this is really important. I believe this is going to be something that's going to carry on in the next few years. The fact that third-party data are going to be more difficult to obtain. And so anything that you own or you see directly is going to be very, very valuable for your segments. You can move on to the next. I think this is the last slide. Yes, this is the last slide. So conclusions. First of all, get your basic right, then move on to the next items. As we saw, basic compliance is really something you have to focus on once. Authenticate once correctly, then do something else, right? You don't have to worry about that all the time. Always put deliverability first. There's no marketing, there's no sales, there's no transactional, there's nothing if your emails are going to spam, right? So deliverability should be your number one preoccupation before anything else. Engagement metrics are quite overall inaccurate, but trends are meaningful. We talked about this multiple times, so I don't want to go over it again, but look at trends. They're very, very important. Visibility is better decision making. Like I see some people that are still thinking about disabling open tracking and click tracking for some mysterious reasons. I'm not even exactly know what, but like my opinion, I want to know as much as I can about my email. I want to know who opens, who clicks, even if it's not perfectly accurate, so I can make better decision on my segments moving forward. And then last but not least, do not micromanage, right? I see a lot of people getting crazy because yesterday they had like 45% open rates. Today they have 41% open rate. Come on, it's email. You're dealing with humans. There's going to be some fluctuation. Try to work with moving average, 7 days, 15 days, 30-day moving average. So it's going to help you make like panicless, I would say, in your decision-making process. Yeah, and I think that's it, Saba. I think we went through the whole presentation.
Right. Uh, Thank you so much, Pierre. I think that was very, very interesting. I had a lot of questions during the entire discussion. And I think
Great.
it's, yeah, so we've got a few more questions here. Let me just look. What are the questions that we want to take up? So there is Utsav who's asking, does tracking open rates impact deliverability? I think we've answered it already, Utsav.
No.
But
Yeah,
yeah, please make
the
it.
answer is no, it doesn't. As long as you can use custom tracking domain, it does not impact your deliverability negatively.
Right. And also, Utsav has another question here. He's asking, what is a good warm-up volume to outreach volume ratio?
What is a good warm-up volume to outreach volume ratio? I'm not sure to understand the question. I'm so sorry.
I think you might be talking about cold outreach, but that is something that you
I
advised against.
unfortunately, yeah, I advise against that. So I'm like a good warm-up in general is sending to your best data and sending slowly. There's no one fit for all. And again, like you want to start with low volume. On the marketing, we usually start by 500 to 1,000 emails per day. For cold email, it's typically lower than that. But again, that is something that I'll let you figure out on your own. Oh, we cannot hear you, Sab, anymore.
Right. And then there's one more question that I wanted to bring up. Jyotika is asking. It says, apart from lower open rates, how else can we identify our emails are landing in spam?
Typically, the symptoms experienced by people coming to 20 minutes consultations will be, well, obviously, number one, low open rates. They will see complaints from their clients or subscribers reporting that, hey, I found your email in spam. If they have Google Postmaster set up, they could also see lower domain reputation. And then there are tools available on the market to do placement testing, seed list testing. So one of the one we use internally is called Block Apps. I suggest that you go on their website. You can do a few free tests. That will help you figure out if your emails are landing in spam or not at some destinations.
Okay, and then we have a final question here, which is, what should be the plan of action in case you get good open rates, but few of your emails are landing in spam by Zishan?
Hey, Zishan. So the plan of action, if you get good open rates, but few of your emails are landing in spam, very difficult to answer this question. I guess, like, first of all, you need to figure out where are your emails going to spam, right? Like, it's not natural that some of them are going to spam. There's usually it's specific to a given destination. So first of all, identify what is the destination, placing your email in spam. The second thing is try to figure out why. Like, are you actually segmenting properly? Are you maintaining decent open rates? Your first answer to most deliverability issues should be segmentation. But look at the bounces. Are you having too much bounces? Is your spam rate compliant? Like, You got to try to figure out the root cause so you can fix the root cause, right? That would be my answer. Unfortunately, Zisan, it's difficult to answer this question more without actually seeing some live insights on what's going on.
And Jyotika has a comment here which says, we've been told by our users they're getting our emails in spam, but the Google Postmaster reputation is showing high. So, do you have some insights over that? What could be the reason?
Well, first of all, maybe the problem is not at Google, right? Maybe you don't have any issues at Google. Maybe the issue is at Microsoft or Yahoo or some other providers. So I think if your users are telling you your emails are going to spam, I would do a few things. First of all, try to look at the email of your users reporting that your emails have been coming into spam. You can use tools like MX Toolbox to try to figure out the MX record and try to figure out like, oh, all of the users reporting us as spam are using Yahoo, for example, right? That would be a good one. So you can try to figure out where is the issue. I would do a test on log apps as well. Just try to look at, okay, on a seed list with various providers, where are my emails going to main inbox? Where are they going to spam? And then that will give you a little bit more clarity, right? But again, if your domain reputation is high on Google Postmaster, hopefully so is your IP reputation. If both of these are high, likely the issue is not on Google, it's somewhere else.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So I think these are all the comments, and then I hope everybody got their answers. And I think this was a very interesting session for me. There were a few things that I think I'm definitely going to go take away and write some post about on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for doing this, and we'll keep in touch. And everybody who attended, thank you so much. Please look out in your inboxes. We'll be sending you a very interesting mind map that Pierre has created for his clients, and a few more deliverability related goodies by Mirmuro. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you soon. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.